Hello and welcome to this special event of the Wisdom Factory. I'm Heidi, or Adelheid Hörnlein, and this is
Mark Davenport, man and wife here.
yeah. And we together are doing the Wisdom Factory, which is a Google Hangout show on leading edge topics, and we invite people who have wisdom and experience to share with the world, and they often are oriented by integral theory. So today, as several other times before, we have here Lawrence Gold. Hello, Lawrence.
Hello there, Heidi. Hi, Mark.
Hi.
Yeah, and we want to tell you a little bit more about the Gold Key release, which is a practice which Lawrence Gold has developed. And I think at this point, Lawrence, the webinar will be about an hour, and we will at the end tell you a little bit more information about how you can engage with us and how you can learn that. And we will have some information by Lawrence. We will have a testimonial by Mark, because we know Lawrence's work only a few months ago, and we were so blown away that we set the goal to bring it out into the world, at least what we can do for that. And one of the events is this one. And at a certain moment, you can come into what we call the film strip, into the video, if you have a Google Plus account. And you can ask for, there is some little button on the right of your chat box, and it says ask for being a presenter or ask for join. And when you do that, we will allow you into the room. This will be in the second half of the webinar. And now I give over to you, Lawrence. Would you like to present yourself a little bit?
Myself.
Yourself.
I remember myself. Wait a minute. Oh.
Where?
Okay. All right then. Well, first thing is, as the guest presenter, I owe you a little bit of introduction here. I'm in the field of somatic education, which is the field of self-knowledge and self-empowerment. My primary clients for the past 25 years have been people in chronic pain. However, in working with people and in developing the principles of this work, I came across some discoveries that are applicable to mind and quality of life. And that became the Gold Key release, and then a series of other increasingly powerful procedures for intelligent self-empowerment. And my first guinea pig was myself, because I developed the Gold Key release for my own sake, basically. I was looking for ways of getting myself unstuck in certain stuck areas. And one afternoon, I traced in myself the structure or the process by which I got solidified into certain patterns of life. It was an internal introspection exploration that led at first to a primitive form of the Gold Key release, which yet worked. And then I used it with a client of mine in California who had some severe challenges, and it worked for her. And then I did it with individuals. And then I started doing small groups. And then Mark and Heidi caught wind of what I was doing and invited me to the Wisdom Factory to do a first-time guest appearance.
Yeah, we are very glad that we met you, because we have had a lot of benefits, and we would like to tell you a little bit. At least Mark would tell his story.
Well, it was really quite remarkable. When I first was exposed to the Gold Key release, I thought, my God, this is almost nonsense. What is he talking about? What is he telling me? He's giving me these strange directions that seem just confusing, contradictory. They don't fit into my brain, the way my mind was constructed to receive these things. But it worked. A few minutes later, I already had relief from the issue that I was concerned about. And I came to understand afterward that it was this way of upsetting my customary patterns of thinking and believing that made it work. And so I'm really I can't praise it high enough, because we've been working with the Gold Key release now for months, and it's no matter what issue we have, we find either relief or great insight into what's going on. And another thing to work on, perhaps, but nonetheless, real progress, and it's just marvelous. So I invite you to listen to how he explains his process.
Yeah, and you see, we are enthusiastic, and we hope you will be too at the end of the webinar. So I give over to you, Lawrence.
Wonderful. Okay, so first thing I want to do is make use of what Mark just said about this uncharacteristic series of instructions that enable a person to unlock themselves from fixed patterns. And I like to call those instructions the teeth of the Gold Key release. A key always has teeth. If you look at any key these days, it has a kind of a zigzaggy pattern, and those teeth fit into the lock in such a way that it gets the lock to come free. And the design of those teeth, if you ever looked at them, how would you even describe it? They're just zigzaggy, right? These steps are very structured steps, as you'll see as we go into this more. It's just that they're not something that a person would think to look at in themselves. It's just not the way they're accustomed to looking at themselves, not the terms in which we're accustomed to looking at ourselves, and yet they are so simple and so basic that the mere arrangement of those steps is like the teeth of a key, and they enable us to unlock ourselves from stuck ways of handling life and stuck ways of experiencing life.
Yeah, it's very well said.
It is.
So it's probably, go ahead, Heidi.
Today, people will see that we have not scripted anything. We are in a creative mood. But you said that you would like to talk about suppressing versus releasing. I mean, when I look back into my childhood, you know, or later on as a young adult, even an older adult, I had problem with feelings. You know, I was always overwhelmed with feelings, and what I did was suppressing them and pretend I didn't have them. So I found out that later, when I learned something about that, not at the moment with the Gold Key release. I'm working on this a little bit longer with different things like the Enneagram and other things. I found out that suppressing kept me so stuck in a jail, I would say. You know, this is actually not the right method. And I saw my mother did the same, and she died like a stone. She was so suppressed in her suppression of whatever was important to her inside. So I decided I don't want to die in that way. I want to live and get free for that. And I did a whole bunch of things, but you know, I'm so excited about what Lawrence does, and I think this will really take the rest off. So wonderful. Suppressing is not the way. Yeah. So
no.
Would you talk about that?
Yeah, I would. First, two things. I'll go touch on that, and then I want to back up to what kinds of conditions or who this is good for. First thing, this procedure works not on the basis of thinking about things, but of direct feeling of what's going on in you as you go through each of the steps of the procedure. And it leads to a release, which is why I called it the Gold Key release and not the Gold Key suppression procedure. There's a difference in feeling to release. Release is freeing. It makes you feel looser, right? Suppression just strives to keep things locked down and under control. And in fact, suppression is the major strategy employed in politics these days. Instead of freeing people, as we see in the news, there's a movement towards suppressing and controlling for the sake largely of vested power interests. My point being the difference between what it feels like to be suppressed and the feeling of what it feels like to be released or release oneself. So I've described the gold key release as a self-liberation procedure. It's something you can do in and for yourself to free yourselves from, or yourself, from the various ways in which you've gotten locked down by your conditioning, from family, as Heidi alluded to, from education, from cultural values, from our educational so-called system. There are many ways in which we acquire or collect ways of being locked up and contained. There's even a term which is the opposite direction, which is called thinking outside the box. Well, you can't think outside the box unless you're already in the box, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't even come up outside the box. So what kind of boxes can there be? Well, okay, there's frustrating situations, that is, challenges in life that are so sticky that it's very difficult to overcome them, and frustration is the result. There's emotional stress from difficult situations, the common insults of life, and persistent limitations, things that we want to do, but our own makeup somehow interferes. And that can be anything from developing a skill to forms of personal development. These are the general areas. There are probably others I didn't think of, but you're getting the hang of it here, getting the flavor of it. It's the stuff that makes us feel frustrated and confined by our life circumstances, or the emotional reactions that we have to the conditions of life. So you can change your circumstance, you can change yourself. Either way, they're an experience of self-liberation from a conditioning situation.
Lawrence, you are talking already about these experiences which are conscious, but I think many people don't really see that. They have an underlying sense of disagio, of uneasiness, you know, and of not feeling well. It was a certain time in my life, about 10 years ago, when I understood that through whole my life I had this sort of stomach and I didn't even notice it, you know. So many of these things which you are naming are not necessarily conscious, but in some way are hindering us to be happy and to be, how do you say, serene and have a positive attitude towards life.
Yeah. I'd say the thing that's generally conscious is the discomfort. What's generally unconscious is the patterning that causes us to feel the discomfort or gets us stuck in a situation. So all the aspects that I named are the surface, the above the water part of the iceberg. And the problem is that people don't have a handle on what's going on below the water level in their own minds and emotions. All the stuff, as you were describing about your suppressing feeling. People don't know they're doing it. It's just the way they grew up.
Yeah, and it comes to my mind the example of relationships, you know. You are so in upheaval often, and you think it's the other person, it's fault. And, you know, and you get more and more and more into this, and you don't even realize that you are contributing, and quite a bit, because of these conditionings in which you are. The belief is, if the other was different, then everything would be fine. But actually, it's not so. Only as an example.
Yeah, sure. So that's one aspect of the kind of predicament that people find themselves in, that we find ourselves in. And the reason we can't get free of them is because part of the situation is anchored in our own makeup and our own personality structure and character, in our own memories of how things are, in our own expectations or imaginings of which way they're going to go, in our own underdeveloped power of intention. So we're too passive in life and we just suffer as a victim of life. And our ability to put our attention into the places that need attention for us to get free. So we get stuck in 4 ways, or any of 4 ways, and that leads us to get stuck in life in various ways. So I just named 4 basic, I call them elements of intelligence: attention, intention, memory, and imagination or expectation. And all 4 of those are operating in us all the time, in every moment. If any one of them were not to be operating, we could have no experience of anything in that moment. If you don't put your attention on it, no experience. If you have no intention toward it, including the intention to pay attention to it, if you have no intention, it doesn't show up on your radar. You have no awareness of its existence because you have no intention about it. If you have no memory of it, you can't recognize what's going on. And if you have no expectation whatsoever about it, then you would lose track of it very quickly. You wouldn't even be able to keep your attention on it because it would just fall away from you. So those 4 are the basic underpinnings of the gold key release.
Yeah, and so we need all 4, as I understand you saying. And what creates the problem is that these 4 faculties, let's say, are sort of already in a certain box. The memory is, I always, whenever I come home to my mother, she is shouting on me, blah, 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 blah. This is the memory, which creates the expectation that she will shout on me. So maybe I have the intention to go there, but not really, because I don't want the experience of being shouted on, and I don't give attention to her because my expectations have overridden my awareness. So I cannot pick the positive what she is offering me because I sort of ride over and create the same experience as always.
Yeah.
So,
and to put it another way, when you get there, your memories and your expectation lead to your intention to protect yourself in that environment, and that closes you off from being able to pay attention to how she actually is in the moment. So we don't even have an experience of the actual situation we're in. We're buried in our conditioning and stuck. Hence, getting free of stuckness and conditioning. You see?
And you know, the thing is that we often think we are so open.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but we more often than not, we are not. We think we are open. But how can we feel that or know that we are open?
Right.
That's the question.
Just today, in a very simple little way, I projected what she was saying onto something that was on my mind. And in our household, sometimes my coffee consumption is a public subject to debate. And
public nuisance.
Revision. Yes. And so, yeah. And today, she said something about the doggy. And I heard blah, 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 coffee. And I started a whole defense of my coffee behavior. Because I was projecting from memory, doggy, coffee, boom. And it was, we had to laugh. We had to laugh.
Isn't that funny?
So let's go back we do so often, no? We do so often.
I think people make their entire lives out of that. And it becomes a person's repetitive pattern of life. People generally experience the same kinds of experiences again and again. And it gives us a static view of what life is. And it's really a reflection of how we are, you see?
Absolutely. Yeah. There is Margarita, she writes, the story with my mother is great, very revealing to the patterns as a family. Yeah. Really. It's the best thing to go home again and see what comes out.
Really. Ram Dass said, if you want to know how enlightened you are, go visit your parents.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go on.
Okay, so let's bring this back to suppression versus release. You go back to visit your mother and you're kind of like expecting, right? And so to avoid an upset, what do? You try to control your own behaviors to minimize the chance of an upset. We call that suppression. Whereas if you were releasing your internal disturbances and your expectations and all of your memories of how things had been, which, by the way, I know is kind of a tall order to say right now, easier said than done. And by the way, that's why there is a gold key release, because it's vastly easier. When you release that stuff, you feel free instead of feeling like you have to guard what you say and what you do, which is suppression. Instead, you free yourself from that unconscious conditioning so that you can be much more free and spontaneous, which, by the way, encourages them to be much more free and spontaneous. They feel like they have more room to be themselves. And the crankiness decreases in them as we are increasingly free. Not altogether and absolutely, because they have their own stuck places. So I'm not saying it as an absolute. I'm saying as a trend and as a flavor of experience. And that's why release over suppression. Heidi? You were reading.
I'm only nodding my head.
Oh,
I'm nodding my head.
All right, all right.
It's okay.
By the way, we've said a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm reminding you in the audience that we're welcoming you into the live on-camera room for conversation here. It's not saying you have to immediately push the button and come in. Just know that it's an option. When you get the urge, just come on in, because we want conversation. So we've talked about...
and I will post also the direct link here in the chat room, okay? Just in a minute.
Right.
So we've talked about the kind of conditions the gold key release is good for, and the general area in which it works, and the general trend, which is toward freedom. It's a self-liberation procedure. And I have it in mind just to go through the steps of the gold key release with you and explain the steps, because Mark made reference to them being, let's say, I'm going to use the nice word exotic. Exotic. But actually, they are very uncommon. They're things that people would not think to do. But when you're doing them, the instructions are obviously very doable. It's just you might not have thought to do them in yourself.
Lawrence, before you do that, we have now some other comment and the question. The question is from Andreas, and he says, what if being locked doesn't depend on you? And do you want first to answer on that, and then I read the other ones?
Sure. Okay. It's true that we're not altogether in control of circumstances, and there are situations that are very confining. A person, let's say, who's in a job they don't like, or they have a superior who is crazy or stupid or both, and they're stuck in this job. Yes, it's true. There are circumstances that seem to lock us in. What we can do, though, is dissolve our troubled reaction to it so that we have a great deal more ease and patience in the midst of it. And because we're freer in ourselves, we are more resourceful for coming up with changes that we can make even within the confines of those stuck situations, creative responses that enable us to improve the situation or even change it altogether. So yeah, no doubt about it. There are, you can call them locks from outside, and this procedure can make those locks feel a lot easier to take prior to actually being able to change the circumstance, the situation.
Yeah, this is very helpful to know, because so many people say, you just go away, you know, and change your... sometimes it's not possible, and you have to find a way where you can be more tranquil in the situation you are
resilient.
in. Yeah, very good. Then there is Ryan Mosher says, so instead of suppressing, just tell mom what you have always wanted to tell her. or release it within, and then it doesn't have to come out?
Well, when you change the flavor of your own life, the way it comes out when you say it is likely to be very different from the way either you would have in the past or even could predict it now. I've seen this in myself, that when I've cleaned up areas in my life, even the situations that were I expected to be unpleasant, when I end up saying it, it comes out now so smoothly, much more gracefully than it would have come out in the past. That's what happens when you remove both the suppression and the sense of the thing you're suppressing. You just get a lot freer and you're smoother in your way of operating.
Yeah, you are not stuck anymore in the emotion, but you have to solve the emotion. And so your anger, for instance, I imagine that it will be anger towards the mom, has sort of ceased the energy, you know, and maybe it goes even into compassion. I saw that with my mother.
Yeah.
And I see that people are responding to each other here.
Oh, good.
Jack asked, the 4 areas are intention, attention, a question mark,
Yeah.
and Leslie responded with attention, intention, memory, and expectation.
Expectation is intention, so there is one missing.
That's right.
No, they're different.
That's right.
Is it?
Intention is the drive to push things to become a certain way.
Imagination.
Imagination.
Yeah, okay.
There we go. That's right.
Imagination.
And you can see how expectation and imagination are very closely related.
Yeah.
When you have an expectation, you're imagining it's going to go a certain way or should go a certain way.
Okay, here we are at the moment. No other questions, so go ahead.
Okay. So I've started out giving you the underpinnings that became the gold key release. It's those 4. The gold key release actually involves a little different kind of word structure. So I'm just going to go through it with you so that you get a first exposure to the steps of the gold key release. And I'm going to explain what those steps do and some of the guidelines, I call them guidelines of freedom in doing the procedure. And the reason I call them that is because people tend to convert the procedure into something that they have to correct and corral themselves in order to do correctly. And it's much easier than that. So let's start out here. Most people will choose some sort of a situation in life about which they feel troubled, and they're able to name it. Let's see here. Oh, here, okay, I'll just choose not enough money as a very common one. We could choose something about food, or we could choose something about sex, but money is a handy one. And the typical experience people have about that is insufficiency. I don't know very many people who are very disturbed they have too much money. Usually they're disturbed about not enough. Now that's a feeling of disturbance, right?
They fear to lose it, you know.
That's true too. Yeah. They could be afraid of losing it or being borrowed from and not being paid back. All of those have a certain feeling to them, don't they? Mm-hmm. So the very first thing you do is you notice what it feels like to be in that situation. That's the first step. Notice what it feels like to have that situation. The second step is to notice where you feel it in you, because the feeling of it is in you, right? So you notice where you feel it in you.
Okay, and this might be sometimes a little bit more difficult because many people have not a good feeling for their own body. But when you try it out, when the next time you're very angry, for instance, you know, it's the most easiest way. Feel where it is in your body. What does it with your body? Where is the anger?
How can you tell you're angry? Right? In fact, what's interesting about this procedure is the worse the thing you're dealing with, the easier it is to apply this procedure to it. So you've got this feeling in you, and you notice where you feel it in you. And if you pay attention, you'll notice it has a location in you. And that feeling has a size and shape in you that can only be noticed by direct feeling, not by thinking about it, but by paying attention to what you're feeling. And it has an intensity. How intense is it? And so the step wording goes, Notice where you feel it in you. Notice its size and shape. Notice its intensity. So that's the very first step. And that's actually the most ordinary kind of experience. Everybody goes through life experiencing the 10,000 shocks flesh is heir to, the 10,000 kinds of incidents that we experience as a feeling. That's primarily where it affects us. So it's as common as can be. And it's not just a feeling in terms of the feeling as in touch or tension. A feeling could be any sense. It could be what it looks like to you, what it sounds like to you. It's your direct experience of it. The next step is to notice the intention in it. That means the persistence of its forcefulness in you. It isn't just like vapor where the feeling just evaporates. If it were, conditions wouldn't stick around and trouble you. So there's a kind of intensity and an intention you feel in it and toward it. You wish it would change. You wish it would be different. And about it, the story you tell yourself, even non-verbally, just like the attitude you have toward it. So you've gotten the experience of the thing and your whole attitude toward it. See how familiar that is, except people don't typically pay attention. But if you do, you just make the decision to pay attention. It's right there. So the next step after that is feel how it all matters. Now, if it didn't matter, it wouldn't even be an issue for you, right? So you just feel how it all matters. And then feel how it mattering involves you. Now, what that means is that it's not as if it were happening to somebody else. It's really got you. Welcome. It's really got you. And in that feeling of it's really got you is the thing that makes you want to do something about it. So that's the next step. Following that, you tell yourself, you just think the words to yourself, it's true, it's true. It's untrue, it's untrue, it's untrue. Now, thinking to yourself it's true, you already believe it's true or it wouldn't be troubling you. However, there may be a part of you that doubts yourself. That maybe you're in the wrong. Maybe it isn't what you think it is. Or maybe it's that there's an opposite possibility that you haven't recognized. In either case, you just tell yourself it's true, it's true, it's untrue, it's untrue, it's untrue. And you get a feeling of what it feels like for it to be true and what it feels like if it were untrue. All you're doing is touching on the feelings that have always been there but have been subconscious. The next step is to remember what it feels like for it to be true. So you remember the feeling of it's true, it's true. And then you remember the feeling of it's untrue, it's untrue, it's untrue. So what you're doing is making it more conscious, more vivid, more available to be noticed and to get a handle on it. The next step is called feel or notice how remembering involves imagining. In a little bit, we're going to do a little brief exercise about remembering and imagining that will show you how they are actually two ways of describing the same thing at different levels of intensity. Memory is much more dense than imagining. It disappears much more slowly than imagining something does. So you notice how remembering involves imagining. And the last step is stop imagining. Let it dissolve and dissipate. Awaken. It's much more easily done to awaken from something you're imagining, right, than it is from a hard, solid life circumstance. And so we do that step. And as soon as you do that step, something very interesting happens. As soon as you stop imagining, the intensity of the situation either evaporates altogether or it evaporates some. If it evaporates altogether, you've just experienced release. If it evaporates some, you've experienced a partial release. In which case, you take what's left and run the whole procedure through again. And it doesn't take long to do. In the learning stages, yeah, it'll take you a few minutes just to learn to do the steps and to remind yourself of each step. But when you know the procedure by heart, you can do a gold key release in less than a minute easily. So it goes much more quickly than in the learning phase. So I've given you an overview of the structure of the gold key release. We've touched on memory, intention, that's the intensity, attention, because you're putting your attention right onto the feelings, and imagining, that last step. And when you lift off, when you let go of the imagining, you experience a release that is not just mental, it's felt. In fact, the good sign of a good completion of the gold key release is you cannot remember what it was you were working on. You're left with very, very clear-mindedness, and you may even be unable to remember what it was you were working on. That's how thoroughly it accomplishes what it accomplishes. So that's what I have to say about that. I'm opening it up right now for any responses.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. It's always for me deepening ever more when you give the explanations. Thank you very much. I see that Andrea has come into the film strip. I have muted you, and if you want to talk, you must unmute yourself just now. It would be a possibility, and let us know what you want to tell us. You must go with your cursor on top and click the microphone, which is red. Okay, you have it. Thank you.
Well, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure if if I fit in this webinar. I'm just curious to understand what you're doing. I'm just curious.
Okay.
So probably I don't really feel particularly stuck in, as I wrote a few minutes ago, my question was, maybe I am not stuck personally. Maybe somebody else is keeping me locked.
Your experience of someone else keeping you locked is inside you.
Well, I think I feel oppressed a little bit in this situation, a social situation in I find myself in. More, I don't think I have any particular psychological problem. I don't know. But I feel stuck in this society. I don't feel like I should get free in a different environment. Well, I live in Italy, and so probably it depends on the political and social situation in Italy.
You remember I said that you can work either on the conditioning in yourself, or you can make the item something that's outside you. So if I were, as you describe yourself to be, and in fact I did this, come to think of it, I did it with the US Congress, which I think is insane. And I was extremely aggravated, annoyed, enraged by the political behaviors, and so on an occasion I did the gold key release on the congressional Republicans and the congressional Democrats, both. And when I was finished, I felt so much better. I wasn't enraged anymore. I could still see that they are crazy or backward. However, my own state was much more at ease. And it opens the possibility for being much more creative about how I deal with those situations.
Mm-hmm.
A bit about Italy.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how you practically did that.
Mm-hmm.
So that if I could watch you, I could maybe repeat what you did and maybe imitate.
Well, that is in fact what I outlined just before we started talking on the steps of the Gold Key release. So in the course that I'll be doing with people, I'll be giving people the step, give them time to do it, and do the next step. So people will be working on their own chosen items through the Gold Key release, and incidentally also some very core items that I've identified that will make it easier for them to do the Gold Key release. So it's an action, a participatory action. As far as the events go about doing the procedure, they're not visible. They're internal. The steps, the words can be external, but the experience is strictly internal, and so there's nothing that you would be able to see unless you have developed the power of telepathy.
Do you have examples?
Well, what more could I do? I did the congressional Republicans and Democrats. I talked about money anxiety. That's another item that one can do. Money, food, and sex are the three main problem areas of most human beings. So you could choose anything in those domains and run it through the Gold Key release. And what you'll discover is your own conditioning. As you go through the Gold Key release, you will see the unconscious conditioning in yourself surface and then dissolve. And it will leave you in a freer condition.
Yeah.
Where can I go at?
Mark is here burning to tell.
Andrea, you know, I'm not sure you're aware of this, Andrea, but Heidi and I are in Italy also. Me for 3 years, Heidi for
30 years.
30 years. We live about an hour north of Rome. So what you were saying about Italian culture, for example, we're very familiar with the frustrations and the limitations, but also some of the really nice things about the Italian culture, and the way that you just hear, and so that's the way it is, and there isn't much you can do about that. But somehow, you know, there are ways to release yourself from that prison of thinking this way about the government, about the bureaucracy, about how it should be, damn it. You know, and the Gold Key release allows you to turn off the old thinking, the old ways of being, and look at things with very fresh eyes.
Yeah, and what I think when you then really take steps to change something, they will be received better. Because when we want to change something and have all this anger and frustration in us, we only push the other people away. That's and right. We cannot inspire them to change anything. They try to defend themselves and won't do anything. But if we are free of these emotions and emotional constant states, yes. You know, we have a completely different emanation. We can take the other person into our field and make them respond in a different way than we have expected. Yeah. But it depends very much on ourselves. I only talked with a mayor some days ago, and I was quite frustrated, but the conversation went in a good way because I realized that I could go out of my feeling, German, and it has to be in that way. Okay.
Yeah.
I should comment a little bit about that. Because here again we come to the difference between suppression and release. When you do a Gold Key release, you don't lose the ability to act or feel the way you were feeling. You just get free of it, which means it's available if you feel you need it, or wanted, and there are certain circumstances where I think it's appropriate to be angry or upset. There are moments. However, it will be much better modulated when it comes out. It will be much better tuned to the situation, and you'll have the freedom either to be that way or not be that way. So you don't lose anything, and you're not thrown into the arms of the opposition by relaxing your position. Both disappear, so that you have free space in yourself to be creative, resourceful, and intelligent. Nothing is lost. It's release with no sense of loss. Interesting difference. So what do you think? Okay.
If you want.
Andrea, would you like to respond?
Well, I think when you have to cope with the situation I was talking about earlier, every day, and I am still working with these people. I have to deal with them, and it's kind of frustrating. And you know it, Mark?
Oh, of course, yeah.
So
we meet them continually.
You know what I mean? That when I say I feel really frustrated, when I have to work with these people every day. And well, I have my own activity. I work on my own, but I have to deliver my products to the rest of the world, and then I have to deal with the bureaucracy, with the accountant, with the and you know, that kind of trouble.
Sure.
And sometimes I think I would better be somewhere else, you know, just leave this place for a while and maybe try like living abroad for a few months if possible, and then come back. And you know, this is my kind of a dream that I have, like going away for a while and then come back. And but at this, you know, this is not easy because it takes some kind of new business that I should develop abroad, which is not, you know, very easy to do. But I'm still hoping to do that. What do you
Andrea,
think?
I would like to jump in here because we are both expats, and I was so in love with Italy when I came because it seemed, for German, it seemed so wonderful, and I ran away from Germany. And after a while, you find out that the other country has different things, but they are running together with you. It's your way, how you are in the face of the problems you face. And it's not in another country that it's better. Some things are better. In Germany, administration is better, but there are other things which are bothering, you know. And it's good when you go outside in another country because you learn that. And not only a few months, because a few months seem to be a little bit like holidays, but go there for 2 or 3 years and you will see that you won't get free from your problems, from the problems, if you don't get free from your own way of meeting life or of viewing life.
Viewing life,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
feeling about it.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
This is my experience and your experience too,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess, you know. So,
Yeah.
but it's always good that people go to other countries and see how it is there, to get a good perspective on their own country.
So you
And I
never
see,
get away from trouble.
no, you don't. I see there is Margarita here in the film strip, and she is also not in her home country, so she might want to say something about that. Or do we have other programs and plans? Margarita,
Well,
come
this
on.
is good. Feel free to chime in, Margarita, if you wish.
Okay, I'm here because I love you guys so much, and Heidi and I are co-hosts for the show, on Thursdays. I hang out on Connections, and I just wanted to say that what this program does for certain people, I think, more than other people, it's a way where one can be private and working on the inner landscape. It's like doing pruning inside of a greenhouse, your body, that has been overgrown by all kinds of tarantulas and vipers and vines that slowly strangle you. You know what you call the Virginia creeper, right? Like, and so that's sort of the image I wanted to say, that that's something that you can work on. And for Andrea, I would say that I got married in Italy, and I know the bureaucracy and all the kinds of number of authorities. One has to seek permission to do all kinds of things, and then very frustrating, very frustrating. So I can understand why you're having that state of mind. And anyway, I wanted to also ask Lawrence, what type of person is most suited for your technique?
That's an excellent question.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a healer. I work with clients to do the similar things, but maybe differently. But I want to know what kind of type of person that you help best.
Okay. Well, let me answer it in the reverse way. The kind of person who's the worst candidate for this type of thing is somebody who thinks that what they're feeling is entirely caused by something outside them, who doesn't want to take responsibility for their own life or for their own feelings. For people who are not listening closely and don't follow instructions well. So turned on its head, people who listen well, who follow instructions well, who take initiative in their life, who are curious about the way they and life work, and who are open to becoming more empowered. That means more able, more intelligent, more perceptive. People who are interested in that, who want to become more functional in life, who are interested in cleaning up in themselves the areas of dysfunction, and interested in others' well-being. Those are the best candidates. How's that for an answer?
Sounds good. I want
Got anything to add? You could add stuff if you feel like there's something.
I see we are quite ahead with the time, and I want to read you the 2 comments of Jack. He says, first, an unlimited being can be or use any feeling or emotion which is different than being in an emotion or possessed by an emotion. So
Yes.
And then releasing the feeling disconnects the charge of judgment and disapproving. And then he says it was a great answer. Yeah, I think we should talk a little bit about the course Lawrence is offering, because these are things you cannot think and you cannot learn like you learn Italian, German, English vocabulary. You go in a book and say learning is imparare, lernen. It doesn't work in this way. You really need to experience it. And so it's a training. It's like everything you train, like even physical things or mental things. You train meditation, you train if you want to do Aikido or something like this, you have to train it. And that's the same thing here. You cannot expect that when you have read once the instructions that then you've got it. First of all, it took me quite a time to learn the instructions and not to forget. It seems simple, but when you are inside, It takes experience and,
Especially when
repetition.
Yes, especially when you're in a bit of an emotional state, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And then, what's next?
The attention goes away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So Lawrence is offering a course. We have done the beta version in some months ago in August, and we have already Lawrence. I'm only the moderator and the, let's say, advanced student, taken
the tech person too.
And the tech person, yeah. We have taken some people through, and we have wonderful testimonials here. And and we want to offer this course again to bring it to a broader, how do you say, publicum, a broader audience.
Yes, right.
Yeah, because all behind, Lawrence is convinced the more people get free in this way, as also Jack is describing, we are creating a different morphic field together. And so we will change things which are still in the mainstream and permanent, seem to be permanent and unchangeable. We will be able to change that together, sort of from the back door.
What you're saying is that as we change ourselves, we'll find, we're having an effect upon our environment, on those around us, and even, even on a national or international scale.
Yeah, yeah. So the intention is to have a community of people who are sort of working together, reinforcing each other in getting free. And that's why we are offering this course. And if you look in my upper line, this is where you can sign up for the course. This will cost some money. We have our mentors always say, don't offer the things for free, because otherwise people don't do it. And we want you to do the course and to learn everything which is needed to learn. So we will ask money. I mean, Lawrence is the teacher. And to keep you there, for the commitment to do it. So check it out. This is a page. I will name that http:// bit.ly/gold, which is the name of Lawrence, G, but it's a big G.
Big G.
OLD, and then course, COURSE, and then 011. And you will find some more instructions. Lawrence is very proliferous in writing, and you will find a whole lot of text about it, and you find also click the button for subscribe to the webinar, and it is 2 days. When is the early bird expiration? I've written it down. Friday the 9th. Early bird. Okay. Yeah, so it will cost you $100 less.
That's right.
If you subscribe within Friday 9th.
Is there a place where we can write that so people
Oh yeah,
will see?
we can. Yeah, Ed has written it here down. Thank you, wonderful. And there is Kimberly, and actually, Kimberly, she has done the course, and I wanted to read your testimonial because it was so great. I hope I have your permission. I read it. Okay, I cannot bring it up because it's on the other computer. Kimberly says, Lawrence's course on the Gold Key release has been extremely helpful to me. It was a bit complex to get at first. Yeah, Mark was talking about that too. But with practice, I can see some of its potential in unlocking my years of stuckness. I have read a great deal on habits and knew I had unhealthy thought patterns, grooves in my brain that developed after traumatic events in my life. The question I had was, how do I remap these thought patterns and free myself from this stuckness? I see. This is a way to do that. I have made progress, and I'm still doing, I think.
Yeah.
I could say the same thing.
Yeah.
I use the procedures myself, and it's very interesting. So the stuff you discover about yourself, and the good news is that by the time you've discovered it, it's already loosened up.
This is exactly the experience.
The discovery is fantastic.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So if you sign up for this course, you will find something completely different than normal courses about, what you might have already done, EFT, ERT, or whatever. It's completely different because it works on a different level of your being. It uses words, but it works somewhere else. And my experience when we worked with Lawrence together, after sometimes it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes that you will led us through the courses. Afterwards, I was like in a deep meditation state. I still can think, I still can speak, but it's a different space. It's much more space in the head. It's not like I feel now, now I'm talking and presenting, and it's a completely different experience. And only this is worthwhile to do it, even if you don't have stuckness. Right. At least if you don't think so. Right. Yeah.
Now, this will support any practice in which you're engaged, any discipline that will empower you to success in any discipline you undertake, as well as giving you a way to clean up your life and to clean up your interior landscape. The reason I can say this is because I have personal experience of it. I'm as much a student of the process as anyone else. It's just that I've been at it for longer, and so I can guide people.
Yeah, wonderful. And I wanted to say, Kimberly, she has given me her permission to read the testimonial, and she has done the course. And we have a special offer for who has done the course already in the beta version, which was free, by the way. And you find it, Kimberly, or whoever is here and has done already or subscribed for the beta version.
Reviewers.
It's the same link, only that at the end is 013. So you click on the same link with 013. I will write it in a minute, and you will find the page there. Then there is check saying Lawrence. I cannot read anymore. Will you read?
Oh, Lawrence's explanation of the purpose of the 4 steps really helped me get a clearer idea of what it is and what the steps are designed to achieve, to accomplish.
Okay, and Andreas is asking, how long does the course last? It is 8 sessions, and it will begin Thursday 22, and will go until December 14th, I think, because we leave out, Americans have Thanksgiving week, so we leave out that week, and it will be 8 sessions.
I want to add a point to Andrea, though, while he's still here, that what we're saying should not be construed to think that your idea of getting out of the situation should be thrown out immediately. That's not the point at all. It may well be something you'll be able to do as you go through the course and maybe able to see a way out. So don't think we're trying to, make you fit into the groove that you're in irrevocably.
Far from it.
No.
Yeah. And Italy is a wonderful country if we can sort of not being bothered by all these things which really don't work. That's us who still live here, I mean me, after 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay, some last word.
Come.
Lawrence. Come and join us, and it will always be that I will do the moderation and ask the dumb questions, and you can ask the question, and you can be here in the film strip and also be personally coached by Lawrence. If you have the courage to step up and be in here, you have the privilege to be one by one coached by Lawrence.
Yeah.
We have 10 places free, 10 people, no, 9 people, 8 people can come in because one place is Lawrence and one place are us. Yes. But 8 other people at the time can come in and be personally coached and get the personal answers. Okay, I think
What do we need to tell people?
Christine says, I would like to practice, I would like to learn. So sign up and we will be together.
All right.
Okay.
Wonderful, Christina. It'll be great to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it. Thank you very much, everybody, and see you there.
Mhm.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.